Hey everyone, it's Sue Ralphs here. Today I'm excited to share with you my latest woodworking project, a stunning TV console made from maple plywood and gorgeous solid maple. I started this build using maple plywood for the main structure. It's strong, stable, and perfect for creating a solid foundation. For the top, legs, and door, you see later on, I'll be using a beautiful solid maple to give this piece a touch of elegance and durability. After cutting all my pieces, I glue some solid maple to hide the plywood edges. To assemble my piece, I'll be using screws plus wood plugs. But first, I need to cut all into the final size. I like to sand the inside parts before I assemble because it's faster and easier this way. While the wooden plugs was drying, I decided to make the groove to fit the backer, using a rabbet bit. And because the router leaves a curvy corner, I clean it up with a chisel. I gave a final sanding to make smooth and to flatten out the wooden plugs. And before I turn upside down, I want to install the legs. But first, I need to build one. For the legs, since they are short legs, I opted for something simple and still sturdy. I didn't want to take away the attention from the doors. After the legs was assembled, I cleaned it up, round over the edges, and I used my chisel where the router couldn't go, and guess what? More sanding. I installed the legs, I added the finish, and before I call it a day, I decided to cut the top into the final size. Next day came back, more sanding, more routing, and clean up. And then I put the top on the side so I could start working on the doors. Now, here's where the magic will happen. I wanted the doors to be a real standout feature. First, I started cutting the plywood into a manageable size so I could start cutting the strips of the plywood. Here I am working on the panel of the doors. So a standard door normally is made using 3/4 inch frame and a 1/4 inch panel where you normally slide in between, giving this shaker design. Well, this door won't be standard. I didn't feel comfortable cutting my plywood strips into a 1/4 inch. I don't think it would be strong enough, so I felt comfortable cutting into 3/8 of an inch, knowing that I would later on glue this into a 1/4 inch backer. I feel like it would be way stronger, which means overall would be about 1/2 inch thick, just the backer. After the first strips were glued up, now it's time to cut with a 45 degrees angle to make the chevron pattern. Here I'm giving about 2 inches in space between the cuts. I normally would like to use a table saw for this part, but because it's so thin, I decided to use the track saw, and honestly, you can do either. This is my favorite part. To get the chevron pattern, you just flip every other row and you can form the chevron. It's like magic. And then I let it glue overnight. This is where I'm going to stop, but you can go a step further and do different patterns. Personally, I only use chevron and diamond. I have built so many plywood patterns furniture throughout my woodworking career, and I think this is so unique because it's very time consuming and requires a table saw. So because of that, limits the amount of people that can do plywood patterns, I think. So that makes it more unique. Here I am cutting more solid maple to finish the shelves to hide the plywood I glued and left overnight. While I was working on the shelves, I also added pinholes in the cabinets for the adjustable shelves. And before I finished my night, I decided to add finish on the side of the cabinet, on top, underside of the top, the backer, and I even was able to glue the door frames overnight. Next day, I came back, I trimmed the door frame, and I created an organic shape for the doors. The reason why I want this to be organic is because this piece goes together with a coffee table that I built a few weeks ago, and the curves of the coffee table are organic as well. So I want them to look similar. I use my jigsaw, and behind the scenes, I sanded, I shaped, I do all the fun things that no one liked to see, and then it was time for finish. Before I review this piece, I want to say thank you so much. We finally hit 1,000 subscribers. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up. And if you are not subscribed yet, please subscribe for more woodworking projects. So now let's see the review.